Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. We've got Frank, Craig and Kasey answering your questions. There's a lot of questions about the title race in the Premier League, as you can imagine. First off, after that setback against City with 5 games left, belief will be everything. As former players, if you were asked to step into the Arsenal dressing room as motivators, what would your message be to keep their title hopes alive? Frank.
Well, that's going to be hard to say anything, but I would say, you know what, guys? We were there. We were capable of being at the top, and nobody was able to follow us. We made some mistake together, so let's see if we can, recover and finish the job, because we are capable of doing that. I trust you. You have to trust me. We can do that.
Are you going to fight for Frank?
I'd probably just light a fire.
At the training ground?
Yeah. Get some pencils again.
Yeah, maybe some of that. I'd respect the ball.
Yep.
If we respected the ball more.
We get a light bulb at this point.
Light bulb?
Do the light bulb one.
Pickpocket?
What was the light bulb? Was it connection?
Yeah.
Connection.
Something like that. Yeah.
We're at that stage now.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Ridicule.
Yeah.
Well, you just got to go in. Listen, you've just got to go in and say, listen, lads, we got to nail the last 5 games, whatever it is, and then see what comes out in the wash. Can't be feeling sorry for yourself at this moment in time. We've got Champions League semi-final to play. You don't know what's going to happen to City. You can only control what you're doing, and that's what Arsenal have to do. And it might not be good enough, but that's what they have to do.
We will find out. Frank, who was the rival striker that you played against that always ended up being a physical battle, like when Gabriel plays against Haaland?
Well, I many times mentioned, I forgot his name, the striker. Come on,
Alan Shearer.
from Newcastle.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Alan Shearer. I guess I'm a little bit tired. But Alan Shearer broke my nose twice, so it was been difficult. It was a physical battle that was impossible to cope with him because of what he was capable of doing, and because he was the captain of England, so referees were very nice to him. But I would say the hardest guy that I played against, and the guy I really appreciated, was Dion Dublin. When I was playing against Coventry, the guy was a monster. It was so hard. And I have to add also Keane from Sunderland. Keane in Sunderland, that was hard to cope with.
Quinn?
Those guys were giants.
Quinn. Niall Quinn.
Quinn, thank you, Quinn.
The thing
Quinn.
is, Dion Dublin, as Kasey said, he's actually very quietly spoken.
Yeah.
Big Dion. But he's a handful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was a handful for centre-backs, for sure.
I bet Frank didn't really forget Shearer's name. He just wanted to burn him one last time.
I remember he went to Celtic.
No, I'm very sorry.
He went to Celtic at the end of his career, Dion Dublin, and he was right at the end of his career. I think Martin O'Neill may have taken him up. I might be wrong. And he was, let's just say, he was running a little bit with a parachute on.
Yeah.
And I mentioned it in the commentary, and then I was on a flight back to the East Midlands, and Big Dion was on the flight, and he brought it up.
He teased you a little bit.
But he was all right. He was
nice.
He was fine about it.
Arsenal seemed to go at it a little bit more today. If they would have done that in the previous 3 or 4 games, would today's game have even meant anything?
Well, that's a very good point. Possibly not. Had they had that belief and been on a bit more on the front foot in these and the previous games, they could have probably have taken a defeat today, and it probably wouldn't have cost them. But they've put themselves in that position, and they put themselves under even more pressure, and so that's a scenario that they find them in. But that is a good point. They allowed this game to be as big as it was. Not Man City. Arsenal allowed it to become such a big game.
Who do you guys have winning the Champions League, Kasey?
I can't go against Bayern Munich right now. I mean, they just seem to have everything moving in the right direction. And yes, Atletico can surprise anybody on the day. I think if Arsenal have this kind of attitude, they could find themselves in a good. And obviously, the previous champions, but Bayern look to be the most in form of everyone.
And they are the odds-on favourite. Are they your favourite?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think that side of the draw is they are the better teams. Honestly, and I said this last week, it really is 6 and 2 threes, isn't it, with PSG and Bayern? It's so close.
Little thing, PSG is in a title race. they're not going to be able to maybe manipulate.
They'll get the game cancelled. That's what.
Well, that could happen too. You know, Arsenal obviously as well are in a huge title race, have something else that they have to focus on. Atletico losing the Copa del Rey yesterday are in a secure Champions League spot. For them, it's just going to be, you know, can they keep that focus solely for Champions League? And then they've been so, you know, I call a lot of Atletico Madrid matches, and you just never know what you're going to. One day you're like, wow, this is it. They're going to be title contenders, and then they make some, you know, silly performances. So, yeah. I think Bayern. I think Bayern are favorites.
Bayern. What are you saying, Frank?
Well, Bayern won away from home during the group stages, all kind of group stages against Paris Saint-Germain, and I was at the stadium, and they were very impressive. And so naturally, I would say Bayern Munich. But if PSG can keep the level that they have sometimes and what they had last season, I think nobody can compete with them as well. And if the unexpected could do that as well. So I want to give a little coin, I don't know, some euros, like 1 or 2 euros on Atletico, because, you know, you never know what can happen in the final. You know, they can surprise anybody and do the job. So that would be funny to see that you have Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain, and it's Atletico which win that cup. So that would be very interesting.
Well, hold that thought, Frank. Does Arsenal have a better chance of winning the Champions League or the Premier League?
My God, they can lose everything, which is a disaster. That's my concern. But if they start losing games in the Premier League, they're going to also lose in the Champions League. But I want to believe that there are more chances to win. I think there are more chances to win the Champions League than the Premier League. I think they lost their mojo, that they're not going to catch or cope with Manchester City. City can, if they win against Burley and score like 2 goals, they have their destiny in hands. So they know how to do that. So it's why Manchester City won't drop any points, and it's going to be hard for Arsenal to cope. So there are more chances in the Champions League.
Remember when Arsenal beat Bayern and Atleti earlier in the season? That was a completely different. There's been a big swing change, hasn't there, in form and fortunes. This was an Arsenal team that people were saying it's the strongest squad, not necessarily the best team per se, but certainly you could argue it was the strongest assembled squad, certainly one of them, when you looked at all the players when they were fit. And everybody was talking about the usual, you know, the quadruple, and then all of a sudden they're at the FA Cup. From a Championship side, they lost in the Carabao Cup final, they may lose the Premier League, and winning the Champions League is tough when you look at the other teams. So, I mean, they could go from looking at winning everything to winning nothing.
Which is the most likely?
Which is possible.
Champions League or Premier League?
I think the Premier League. I think the Premier League for them is still potentially easier to win than having to beat PSG, or Atleti, or Bayern.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Let me stay with you, Craig, for this one. Mo Salah equalled Steven Gerrard's record for the most goals in Merseyside derbies, which is 11 in the Premier League. How happy is Everton to see him leave at the end of the season?
I don't think Everton are bothered, to be honest with you. He took his goal well. His record at Liverpool generally has been outstanding. It's his final Merseyside derby today, and he got a nice goal off a good pass from Gakpo. But at times, yeah, anyway, never mind all the Everton stuff. You know, he scores in big games, not so much now. It's time for him to go. It is, and he has been amazing. He'll get I don't know if the last game of the season's at Anfield or not, but certainly his last game at Anfield, whenever that is, it'll be a very emotional day for him. He'll get an amazing reception, and rightly so. But his record's great, but it's time to move on, you know what I mean?
Kasey, with 2 of your former clubs being relegated last season and another one of your former clubs potentially being relegated this season, would this suggest that Fulham will be in a relegation fight next season?
Who's the clubs then? Hold on. Leicester? Who was the clubs that got relegated?
Southampton. And Leicester.
Leicester. And this
Yeah.
season,
Now Spurs potentially.
Spurs. Oh, shit.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and Gladbach still have a little work to do to make sure
Kasey
they stay in the Bundesliga.
Raya are okay.
Raya are okay. Raya have a chance to even
yeah.
making a European Cup final. Yeah, Fulham. Fulham, who got off to a kind of a rough start this year, so it was honestly a little bit. And I was speaking with somebody at Fulham, a friend, and just kind of saying, "Don't worry, they'll get the results together." Thankfully, they have.
Well, they got a very good manager, though, haven't they?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose if he goes and it starts to fall apart a little bit, yeah, I mean, but the current side with the current setup, I wouldn't think so. The jinx over here.
I'm just hoping that
Leave Raya alone,
Southampton
Raya.
have
Oh, yeah.
a chance in the
My God.
playoffs to come back up. So that's yeah. I'm hoping
Yeah,
I can
that
get a
will
little
balance things out.
more representation there.
How will Liverpool replace Salah and Van Dijk when they leave the club? Both always coming up with timely goals throughout their careers. Frank.
Well, you know what? This season hasn't been the best season of both of them, Van Dijk and Salah. So everybody is replaceable. You have stars, you have fantastic players. They have been fantastic players, but I'm sorry, this season, especially Salah, has been a passenger. Van Dijk, like Konate, like many others, most players, I would say, like McAllister or Gravenberch, and we didn't recognize them. So I want to say that, yeah, when it's their time to go, some others going to come and replace them, and some of the fans will remember those players with fantastic abilities and great players. But it's time for, and everybody is going to leave that. It's time to leave, and it's time to be replaced.
Okay. Ending the season at Anfield against Brentford. Liverpool.
Yes, I was just about to look there. You've said they are the final game at Anfield.
Yes. Be a nice little
I
party.
wonder if Stevie will go. You know, I had a bit.
Well, he was a little bit upset yesterday, wasn't he? He thought that we had to give more importance
Yeah,
to
he wasn't
the
happy that
Merseyside
we sort of
derby.
brushed over the Merseyside derby.
Yeah, sorry,
Ish.
Stevie.
Well.
Craig, with Leeds and Forest wins this weekend, is it now just a relegation between Spurs and West Ham, the battle?
I don't think Forest are quite. I think Leeds are going to be. I always felt Leeds were going to be okay because of the fight they have in them, as well as they can play a little bit. And Ellen Road, you know, in the crowd, the atmosphere. Forest are close to being there, but I still think that I still think it goes up to 16. So I think Spurs, West Ham, and Forest. Don't forget Spurs' next game, which I think we said in the show yesterday. If they
Wolves.
don't,
Yep.
if they don't win,
Wolves.
they're probably going to get relegated. Is Wolves away?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kasey, they have to.
They
win
have
it.
to. I mean, and I think it's also more of the way yesterday's result happened. The fact that they'd gotten that second goal, they were, and then just lack of a clearance out of the back, and you've gifted 2 points at a time when you can't. And so that mental side of it will be interesting to see if Tottenham can bounce back and get a couple of results. Because really, I think what's going to happen now at the bottom of the table is who strings some results together.
West Ham's at Palace tomorrow.
Yeah, that's. We're at that stage of the season now that you're just going.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's now. You're now at that time of the season where the players are not looking forward to the games. All you're looking forward to, trust me, I've been down there with Jim Smith's derby, and when we got the point against Newcastle in the 99-2000 season, when we got the point in the second last game of the season, that was us safe. That's all I wanted, because the final game, our last three games, Tottenham away, Bobby Robson's Newcastle at home with Alan Shearer and all them, Gary Speed, and Chelsea away, last day of the season. So as soon as we got that point we needed, it was like, there was no enjoyment.
Yeah.
Just not.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Storylines at both ends of the table in the Premier League this season. Listen, guys, thank you so much for sending in your questions. That will do it for the latest edition of Extra Time.
That'll do it. That's as good as you're going to get.
Well, that's about all you're going to get today.
Get any better
You get
than
what
that.
you get and you don't get sad. See you tomorrow on ESPN FC.